Ambassador Jiho Kim walked through the bright white corridors of the space station. The walls were smooth and clean, and strange blue lights ran along the ceiling. He had never seen anything like this place before. Earth had only just made contact with other planets, and now he was here to represent all of humanity. He carried a small metal case in his hand. Inside were samples from Earth that the Alien Council wanted to study. Simple things, really. Soil, air, plants, and water. The aliens said they needed to check everything before humans could join their galactic community. Jiho stopped in front of a large door marked with symbols he could not read. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and he stepped into a laboratory filled with strange machines and glowing screens. The air smelled different here, like metal and electricity. A tall, thin creature made of what looked like purple crystal approached him. Its body sparkled under the laboratory lights, and when it moved, it made a soft, chiming sound like wind chimes. "Greetings, human representative," the creature said. Its voice came from a small device on its chest, translating its words into English. "I am Trade Evaluator Vexthai. I will examine your planet's samples today." Jiho bowed politely. "Thank you for seeing me. I hope everything meets your standards." Dr. Yuna Park, Earth scientist, stood nearby watching the process. She had spent months preparing these samples, making sure they represented Earth accurately. She felt nervous but excited to see how advanced alien technology would analyze their home planet. Vexthai took the metal case with long, delicate fingers that looked like purple glass. "We must be very careful," it explained. "Some substances that seem harmless to one species can be deadly to others." The alien opened the case and began removing small containers. First came the soil sample, which it placed under a scanning device. Green lights played over the dirt and numbers appeared on nearby screens. "Interesting mineral composition," Vexthai noted. "High carbon content, this is acceptable." Next came the air sample in a sealed tube. More lights, more scanning, more numbers on screens. Oxygen and nitrogen mixture. Quite breathable for carbon-based life forms. No problems here. Then Vexthai picked up a simple plastic water bottle. The kind Jiho might buy from any store on Earth. Clear liquid sloshed inside as the alien held it up to the light. "And this substance?" Vexthai asked. "That's water," Jiho replied with a smile. "H2O, it's everywhere on our planet. Covers about 70% of Earth's surface." The moment those words left his mouth, everything changed. Vexthai dropped the bottle. It bounced on the laboratory floor, but thankfully did not break. The alien's crystal body began flashing bright red like a warning light. "Water?" Vexthai's translated voice rose in pitch. "Did you say water?" Before Jiho could answer, loud alarms began ringing throughout the space station. Red lights flashed. In the corridors outside, the sound was so loud that both humans had to cover their ears. "Emergency! Emergency!" a computer voice announced in dozens of different languages. "Class 7 universal solvent detected in Research Bay 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." "This is not a drill!" Yuna grabbed Jiho's arm. "What's happening? What did we do wrong?" Through the laboratory's large window, they could see alien workers running in panic. Some moved on legs, others floated through the air, and a few seemed to roll like living wheels. All of them were fleeing as fast as they could. Vexthai used long metal tongs to carefully pick up the water bottle. The aliens' movements were shaky, like someone handling a bomb that might explode at any moment. "You brought universal solvent aboard this station," Vexthai said, backing away toward a heavily reinforced containment unit. "The most dangerous substance known to galactic civilization." "Dangerous?" Jiho looked confused. "It's just water. We drink it every day." The alien stopped moving. Its crystal body went completely dark for a moment, then began flashing different colors rapidly. "You drink it?" The translation device struggled with Vexthai's shocked tone. Heavy metal doors began sliding shut around the laboratory. Emergency. Systems activated everywhere, sealing off sections of the space station. Through the reinforced glass, more aliens could be seen evacuating entire levels of the facility. "Universal solvent dissolves almost anything it touches," Vexthai explained while carefully placing the water bottle into what looked like the most secure container in the galaxy. It breaks down molecular bonds. It can eat through starship hulls. Entire fleets have been lost to this substance. Yuna stared at the bottle being locked away behind multiple layers of protective barriers. That's impossible. Water is harmless. All life on Earth needs it to survive. Survive? Vexthai's voice became very quiet. No known species can survive direct contact with universal solvent. It's banned on every civilized world in the galaxy. The space station's emergency systems continued their loud warnings. Security drones flew past the windows, their scanners, checking for more contamination. In the distance, they could see alien ships moving away from the station, putting safe distance between themselves and the terrible danger. Jiho looked at Yuna, then back at the alien. A strange realization was beginning to form in his mind. "I think," he said slowly, "we need to have a much longer conversation." The Grand Assembly Hall was the largest room Ambassador Siak Li had ever seen. It stretched so far in every direction that he could barely see the walls. Thousands of different alien beings filled the space, each one stranger than the last. Some floated in bubbles of colored gas. Others looked like walking rocks or trees made of metal. A few were just balls of light that pulsed different colors when they talked. Siak sat in a small section marked with Earth's symbol. Next to him, Dr. Minho Choi was frantically typing on his tablet, trying to understand what was happening. Neither of them had expected to be called to an emergency meeting of the entire Galactic Council. At the center of the hall stood a massive crystal being that sparkled like a diamond. This was High Counselor Zethmar, the leader of the council. When it spoke, its voice somehow appeared directly in everyone's mind, no matter what species they were. Fellow beings of the galaxy, the crystal's mental voice was deep and serious. We face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. The species calling themselves humans have brought quantities of universal solvent aboard our station. A wave of fear rippled through the crowd. Aliens began making noises of distress in hundreds of different ways. Some clicked, others buzzed, and a few simply changed colors rapidly. Siak leaned over to Minho. "They're still talking about the water," he whispered. Minho nodded, but looked worried. He had been researching in the galactic database all night. "I think there's been a translation problem," he whispered back. "But it's worse than we thought." A delegate that looked like a walking diamond stood up. Its body caught the light and threw rainbows across the nearby walls. "The crystalline hegemony has lost ships to this substance," the diamond being announced. 3 of our scout vessels were completely dissolved when they tried to land on the human planet. They touched the ocean and simply melted away. Gasps echoed through the hall. More aliens began backing away from the human section. Another delegate rose to speak. This one appeared to be made of living metal that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. "The Silicon Confederacy reports similar losses," it said in a voice, like grinding gears. "Our exploration probes lasted only minutes in contact with this universal solvent. Our molecular structure cannot withstand exposure." A floating cloud of green gas pulsed brighter. "How can we allow such a dangerous species into our peaceful community? Their entire planet is covered in liquid death." Siak started to stand up, but several nearby aliens immediately moved away from him. Some activated what looked like protective shields around themselves. "Honored Council," Siak called out. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding." Silence. The crystal leader's mental shout was so strong that Siak stumbled and had to grab his chair for support. "We are here to decide if humanity represents a biological weapon that threatens all galactic life." The debate continued for hours. Species after species stood to share their horror stories about water. The methane breathers told how their atmospheric suits had failed completely when exposed to Earth's humidity. The energy beings described how water interfered with their electrical fields so badly they could not even approach Earth's solar system. Dr. Minho finally found what he was looking for in his tablet. He grabbed Siak's arm and showed him the screen. "Look at this," Minho whispered urgently. "In their database, universal solvent is described as a substance that breaks molecular bonds and dissolves most known materials. But they're talking about water at room temperature. These species must have completely different chemical structures than us. Siok read over the information quickly. His eyes grew wide as he understood. They're not carbon-based life forms like us, he realized. Most of them are silicon-based or crystalline or pure energy. To them, water really is deadly. Which means, Minho said quietly, to them, we're the most dangerous things in the galaxy. The debate was getting more heated. Some delegates were calling for Earth to be quarantined permanently. Others suggested that humanity should be classified as a galactic threat and dealt with accordingly. A representative that looked like a large insect with metal wings buzzed loudly to get attention. Perhaps these humans do not understand the danger they carry, it suggested. Their primitive science may not have taught them about universal solvent. Primitive? Another delegate scoffed. This one appeared to be a walking tree with silver bark. They swim in the substance. Our scouts reported seeing them splash it on themselves for pleasure. The entire hall erupted in shocked noises. The idea that any intelligent being would voluntarily expose themselves to universal solvent was beyond their comprehension. High Counselor Zethmar raised what might have been an arm, and the hall slowly quieted. The human delegates will be given one chance to explain themselves, the crystal being announced. But if they cannot prove that they do not pose a threat to galactic civilization, Earth will be permanently isolated from all other worlds. Thousands of alien eyes, sensors, and consciousness fields turned toward the small human section. Sayak felt the weight of his entire species' future resting on his shoulders. He stood up slowly, causing another wave of protective shields to activate around nearby delegates. It was time to tell them the truth about humanity. Ambassador Sayak Lee stood in the center of the massive hall. Thousands of alien beings watched him from every direction. Their eyes, sensors, and strange glowing parts all focused on him like spotlights. He could feel their fear and curiosity mixing together in the air. He took a deep breath and spoke clearly into the translation device. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Sayak began, I must tell you something that may be hard to believe. Human beings are made of about 60% water. The silence that followed was complete. Not a single sound echoed in the enormous hall. Even the humming of machines seemed to stop. Then chaos exploded everywhere. The floating cloud of green gas that represented the methane collective suddenly broke apart into tiny pieces. Emergency drones rushed to collect the scattered parts and put them back together. 3 delegates that looked like walking computers simply shut down completely, their lights going dark. A delegate made of what appeared to be living lightning began flickering so fast that sparks flew from its containment field. The translation systems couldn't keep up with the rapid changes in its electrical patterns. That is impossible, shouted a being that looked like a giant crystal spider. No life form can contain universal solvent and survive. Dr. Minho Choi activated his tablet and projected images onto the large screens around the hall. The first image showed a human body with percentages marking different parts. Water makes up most of our blood, Minho explained calmly. It fills our cells. Our brains are nearly 80% water. We cannot live without it. More aliens began fainting or shutting down. A delegate that resembled a walking tree made of silver metal actually fell over with a loud crash. Medical drones rushed to help it. Furthermore, Siak continued, humans drink approximately 2 liters of water every single day. We must have it to survive. The crystal leader Zethmar began flashing different colors so rapidly that it looked like a disco ball. This was apparently how its species showed extreme shock. Dr. Una Park appeared on a holographic screen broadcasting from Earth. Behind her they could see a normal human kitchen. We also use water for cooking, she said, turning on a faucet. Clear water flowed out normally. We wash our food with it. We clean our dishes with it. Several more delegates activated emergency protective shields. The ones that looked like floating jellyfish began pulsing alarm colors. Una opened a refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of water. She unscrewed the cap and took a long drink while the aliens watched in horror. We bathe in it too, she continued, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. She showed images of humans in bathtubs and showers. Every day, we cover our entire bodies with water to stay clean. A delegate that appeared to be made of living sand collapsed into a pile, On the floor, others began making distress sounds that the translation system couldn't even identify. But that's not all, Una said with a smile. She activated new images showing humans at beaches and swimming pools. We swim in it for fun. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Half the delegates in the hall began evacuating. Emergency alarms started ringing again as various species activated their panic protocols. The images showed children splashing in pools, people surfing on ocean waves, and families having fun at water parks. To the humans, these looked like happy vacation photos. To the aliens, they looked like scenes from the most extreme horror movie ever made. They submerged themselves completely, whispered a delegate that looked like a walking flower made of metal petals. Voluntarily. For pleasure, High Counselor. Zethmar's crystal form had stopped flashing and gone completely dark. This was apparently how its species dealt with information that was too shocking to process. Dr. Minho projected more data onto the screens. All life on Earth requires water, he explained. Plants need it to grow, animals drink it every day. Fish live their entire lives swimming in it. Without water, everything on our planet would die. This cannot be real, said a delegate whose body looked like a cluster of glowing orbs. You're describing a planet inhabited entirely by beings immune to universal solvent. Not immune, Siak corrected. Dependent. We need this substance to live. Our bodies are mostly made of it. The realization began to dawn on the remaining delegates who hadn't fled the hall. They weren't looking at a primitive species that had accidentally discovered the galaxy's most dangerous weapon. They were facing beings so incredibly tough that they had evolved with liquid death as their primary body fluid. What manner of world did you evolve on? Asked a shaking voice. From somewhere in the crowd, Una's hologram smiled again. Earth. It's quite nice, actually. Lots of water everywhere. We have oceans, rivers, lakes, and rain that falls from the sky. Rain? The word rippled through the hall like a curse word. Yes, water falls from our clouds regularly, sometimes for hours at a time. We actually like it. Children play in it. The few remaining delegates stared at the humans with a mixture of terror and amazement. They had discovered a species that didn't just survive contact with universal solvent. They had built their entire civilization around it. High Counselor Zethmar slowly began glowing again, processing this impossible information. We are not dealing with a dangerous species, it finally announced. We are dealing with the most resilient beings in galactic history. 3 days later, Ambassador Jiho Kim stood inside a clear glass sphere in the middle of the largest laboratory he had ever seen. The sphere was surrounded by machines that beeped, hummed, and flashed with lights of every color. Thick cables ran across the floor like metal snakes, connecting everything to computers that filled an entire wall. Outside the sphere, hundreds of alien beings watched from behind protective barriers. Some hid behind walls of energy that shimmered, like soap bubbles. Others wore what looked like spacesuits even though they were inside the station. A few had moved so far away that Jiho could barely see them at the back of the room. Dr. Una Park monitored the readings from a control room, high above the laboratory floor. Numbers and graphs danced across dozens of screens around her. She had never seen so much advanced technology focused on one simple test. This is madness, muttered a delegate whose body looked like a walking suit of golden armor. No being should willingly consume universal solvent. High Counselor Zethmar's crystal form stood at the front of the observation area, flashing nervous colors. The human subject will now demonstrate their species' claimed resistance to Class 7 universal solvent. A simple glass sat on a small table inside Jiho's sphere. It was filled with clear water from Earth's own supplies. To Jiho, it looked like any glass of water he might drink at home. To the aliens watching, it might as well have been a glass of liquid fire. Subject, please proceed with the demonstration, announced the station's computer voice. Jiho reached for the glass. The moment his fingers touched it, several aliens in the observation area made sounds of panic. A delegate that looked like a floating jellyfish actually fainted and had to be caught by emergency drones. He lifted the glass and looked at it. The water was perfectly clear and normal. He could see tiny bubbles clinging to the sides where it had been poured. The subject is handling the universal solvent container, reported Dr. Vexthai, the purple crystal being who had first discovered the water sample. Its voice shook with disbelief. No protective equipment, direct skin contact with the containment vessel. Jiho raised the glass toward his lips. Around the laboratory, more aliens began backing away. Some activated additional protective shields. Others simply left the room entirely. Readings show no cellular damage to the subject. Yuna called out from the control room. All vital signs normal. Jiho drank the water. The collective gasp from the observation deck was so loud it registered on the station's sound sensors. Several delegates collapsed immediately. Emergency medical teams rushed to help them while their life support systems activated automatic revival protocols. Impossible, whispered a delegate whose body seemed to be made of living metal wires. The subject should be dissolving from the inside. But Jiho just swallowed normally and smiled. The water tasted exactly like water always did, clean and refreshing. He had drunk thousands of glasses just like it throughout his life. The subject appears completely intact, Dr. Vexthai reported, checking and rechecking the sensor readings. No molecular breakdown detected, no cellular damage of any kind. How? Asked a voice from the crowd. It came from a delegate that looked like a walking tree made of blue crystal. How is this possible? But the demonstration wasn't over. Following the plan they had prepared, Jiho picked up a small pitcher that sat next to the glass. It was also filled with water from Earth. Now the subject will demonstrate external contact, announced the computer voice. Jiho poured water from the pitcher over his hands. He rubbed them together, washing normally, just like he did every morning when he got ready for work. This time, the panic was immediate and complete. Alarms began ringing again as dozens of aliens fled the observation area. The ones who stayed activated the strongest protective barriers they had. Direct dermal contact, shouted someone. The universal solvent is covering his extremities. A delegate that appeared to be made of living rock actually cracked down the middle from stress. Medical drones rushed to stabilize it while it made sounds like grinding stone. Vital signs still normal, Yuna reported, though her voice showed her amazement at the aliens' reactions. No tissue damage, no adverse effects whatsoever. Dr. Seungmin Han appeared on a holographic screen, broadcasting from Earth. Behind him, they could see a typical human swimming pool with people enjoying themselves in the water. This is quite normal for humans, he explained cheerfully. We use water for personal hygiene every day. The hologram showed children playing in a fountain, people washing cars, and families having water balloon fights. Each image caused more distress among the alien observers. They immersed themselves completely for recreation, Seungmin continued, showing footage of people swimming, diving, and surfing. Many humans spend hours each day in direct contact with what you call universal solvent. A delegate whose body looked like a cluster of floating crystals began spinning so fast it created a small whirlwind. This was apparently how its species showed extreme distress. What manner of beings are you? Asked High Counselor Zethmar, its mental voice filled with awe. Jiho dried his hands with a towel and looked up at the observation deck. Water still dripped from his fingers, each drop causing nearby aliens to flinch. We're just humans, he said simply. This is normal for us. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of machines and the sound of water still dripping from Jiho's hands onto the floor of the sphere. 6 months had passed since what everyone now called the water crisis. Ambassador Kyung Park sat in her new office aboard the Galactic Council's main station. Through her window she could see ships from hundreds of different worlds coming and going. The view still amazed her every day. Her office was in a special section built just for humans. The walls were made of materials that could handle moisture, and the air system was designed to work with water vapor. Other species had demanded these safety features before they would allow humans to live on the station permanently. A soft chime announced a visitor. High Counselor Zethmar's crystal form appeared in her doorway, though it stayed well back from the entrance. Even after all this time, most aliens were still nervous around humans. Ambassador Park, the crystal being's mental voice was respectful but cautious. "We have received an emergency request from the Methane Collective. They need human assistance." Kyung set down her coffee cup, which caused Zethmar to take another step backward. Coffee had been almost as shocking to the aliens as plain water. The idea that humans would drink heated universal solvent mixed with ground plant matter had caused 3 more emergency council sessions. "What's the situation?" Kyung asked. "Their main colony on Titan 7 has suffered an atmospheric breach. The habitat has been contaminated with water vapor from a nearby comet impact. They cannot enter the area without protection that would take months to build." Dr. Yoonji Song, who served as Earth's chief science officer for alien relations, laughed quietly from her desk nearby. "So they need someone who can work in humid air?" "Precisely. Your species' unique adaptation to universal solvent exposure makes you the only beings capable of operating in such conditions." Kyung nodded. It had become routine. Humans were now the galaxy's go-to species for any job involving water in any form. Ice, steam, liquid. If H2O was involved, everyone called Earth. "We'll send Team 7, Kyung said. "They specialize in atmospheric work." After Zethmar left, Yoonji walked over to Kyung's desk. "Can you believe how much has changed?" It really was amazing. The vote to accept humanity into the Galactic Council had been unanimous, something that had never happened before in the Council's history. But even more surprising was humanity's new status. They had been classified as species most likely to survive universal extinction events and given special protections and privileges. Earth had become known throughout the galaxy as the Fortress World. Tour groups from other planets would come just to observe humans from a safe distance. They wanted to see the legendary beings who swam in liquid death and drank universal solvent for breakfast. The economic changes had been incredible too. Any planet with significant water had automatically become human territory. Other species were too afraid to even attempt colonization. Earth's real estate market now included entire solar systems with water-bearing worlds. Kyung's communication device buzzed. A message appeared from the tourism board on Earth. "New record broken. 50,000 alien visitors this month want to observe humans in aquatic environments. All viewing done from sealed observation domes at minimum safe distance of 5 kilometers. She smiled and shared the message with Yoonji. "Remember when we thought nobody would want to visit Earth? Now they pay premium prices just to watch us take showers," Yoonji laughed. From orbit. The door chimed again. This time it was Captain Jaewon Lee from the Human Emergency Response Team. His uniform was still damp from his last mission, a water main break on a Crystal Folk mining station. The job had taken him 20 minutes. It would have taken any other species months to even approach the area. Another call came in. Jaewon reported. "The Silicon Confederacy needs help with flooding on their research station. Apparently a storage tank leaked and there's half an inch of water covering their main laboratory." "Half an inch?" Kyung raised an eyebrow. "They evacuated the entire facility," Jaewon said seriously. 3,000 researchers, all because of what we'd consider a minor spill. It had taken humans a while to understand just how different they were from other galactic species. Most aliens were based on silicon crystalline structures or pure energy. Water didn't just kill them, it completely dissolved their basic molecular structures. To them, humans weren't just tough. They were impossible. Dr. Minseo Kim entered the office carrying a tablet full of new reports. "The medical data is fascinating," she said. "We've discovered that human saliva is considered a Class 6 corrosive agent by galactic standards. Our tears are classified as industrial solvent." "What about sweat?" Yoonji asked. "Class 5 hazardous waste. There are now regulations requiring any space station with human residents to have special ventilation systems to handle our moisture output." Kyung checked her schedule. 3 more emergency calls were waiting. A gas-based species needed help with condensation problems. An energy collective had accidentally come into contact with atmospheric humidity and needed immediate assistance. A crystalline civilization wanted to hire humans as permanent safety consultants. "You know what the funny part is?" Kyung said, looking out at the busy space traffic. We still haven't told them about alcohol, Yunji grinned, or hot sauce, or the fact that we intentionally put chemicals in our water for taste. Captain Jaewon shook his head. Can you imagine their reaction when they find out we have swimming pools filled with chlorinated water? One crisis at a time, Kyung said, finishing her coffee. Right now we're the galaxy's heroes just for drinking water. Let's not break their minds completely. Outside her window, another human transport ship departed for an emergency response mission. Somewhere in the galaxy, aliens were waiting for the legendary beings who could survive the impossible. Just another normal day for humanity.